Hey guys, welcome to my channel and to today's video. As you can see by the title, I'm finally sitting down and I'm going to share my breastfeeding journey story with you guys. This video has been planned forever, but I haven't actually I've meant to do it, but I haven't actually planned how I'm going to do it. So I just decided I have the chance tonight. It's 8:15 right now, so the sun is going down, so I apologize for the horrible lighting. I'm not really a fancy YouTuber. I just like to do YouTube because it's fun. I guess this is gonna kind of be more like a story time video because I didn't really make any formal notes or anything, and I don't remember everything because the first year with triplets is kind of crazy. So if you just happen to stumble upon this video and you haven't watched my videos before, hi, I'm Allie, and I have triplet baby girls. Well, I call them babies. They're 16 months, but I will also call them babies forever. And I breastfed them successfully for the first 15 months. Now, just so you guys know, I'm going to call it breastfeeding because I believe that I breastfed my children. But really, I exclusively pumped for them. Also, that might be a little, I don't know. What do you guys think? I say that I exclusively pumped because I did exclusively pump. Like, I did not breastfeed. I just pumped for them. But I also supplemented with formula when necessary. So I don't know if I could really say I exclusively pumped. I don't know. Anyway, I only pumped for 15 months. I tried to breastfeed for the first few days and I was unsuccessful, which I'll get into that. So, okay, I guess we'll just start at the beginning. So, as you all know, I have triplets. And so when you have triplets, 100% of the time they're going to be born early. How early, you'll never really know. Luckily, I did make it to 35 weeks and 1 day with the girls. That was actually my scheduled C-section date from the very beginning, and I'm very blessed to have made it all the way to that date. I'm sure you guys already know, but when you have a baby early, your milk, once the baby's born, your milk will start producing, but I feel like there's kind of a slower start to it. Even if your babies are born at 28 weeks, you will absolutely still get your milk in, but it may be a slower start. I can feel myself rambling already, and I am 5 minutes and 22 seconds in, and I've already lost where I'm at. Okay, when you deliver early, your milk may come in slower. So I expected that from the get-go. A few hours after my C-section, the girls were in the NICU. I had not even met them yet, and I was in my room with Steve, and I was just completely out of it from whatever medications I was on and from having a major surgery. I hadn't even seen the girls yet, and a lactation consultant came in, and she knew that I planned on breastfeeding because the hospital goes over all of that with you ahead of time. So luckily the lactation consultant came in, and she was awesome and very thorough, but I was so just out of it that I remember saying to her, I am so sorry if I fall asleep. I literally can't even keep my eyes open. And that is not like me. If somebody is speaking to me, I'm going to give them my attention and respect them. So for me to even say that, I was just out of it. Anyway, luckily Steve was listening. Steve listened to everything that she had to say. He took down her phone number for me so I could call her if I ever had any questions. Steve was basically just my eyes and ears. From that point forward, I pumped every single 3 hours. Now, I didn't really have much milk at all. I probably got a few drops of colostrum at first, which is expected. But I continued pumping every 3 hours, and on the 3rd day after delivery, my milk finally came in and I was able to get a few ounces. At this point, I had already went into the NICU and I was trying to get the girls to physically latch to me. Emerson and Dawson were successful with it. Scarlett was not because she had a breathing tube in, so we couldn't really even try that, and she was also having Brady episodes. So anyway, Emerson and Dawson were successful with it, but they were also there as feeders and growers. So really what that means is that they're overall healthy, but they couldn't leave the hospital until they were over 4 pounds each. And so they needed just to really be observed. We needed to make sure that they were eating. They also didn't have the suck, swallow, breathe down yet. So we needed to make sure that they could do all of those together before they ever came home. It was difficult to get them to actually latch to me because we just couldn't measure what they were getting. And we wanted to make sure that they were gaining and progressing. The girls were in the NICU for 10 days and Scarlett was in for 19 days. And within those 19 days, I had fully transitioned to just pumping. Pumping was really hard because it was really like having a 4th child at all times. I look back now and I really can't even believe that I successfully did it for so long. And at the end of my pumping journey, I hate to even say that I was almost attached to my pump, but I was. And I think that any exclusive pumper could agree with me, or at least understand what I'm saying. You are so used to pumping, and you are so used to just getting as much milk as you possibly can for your baby, that it almost just becomes second nature. So I'm sorry, I know that this is kind of like all over the place, but when I left the hospital, they let me borrow and take home a hospital grade Medela pump. That pump was awesome. It was big. It was like a robot pump that I had to bring and like carry around from room to room. Luckily, it was no big deal because I didn't go anywhere the first 2 weeks except for stayed home because I was still recovering from a major surgery. Or I would go to the NICU and I would bring my own parts and I would just pump at the NICU, and they had a pump there. So the pump only stayed home, but that pump was amazing. Now, before I even had the babies, I had always planned on breastfeeding. Whatever that meant for me, I did not know. I didn't do any research because I was already so overwhelmed with life and everything that I didn't even have a pump. So even though I intended on pumping, I was not at all prepared for it. I was so thankful that the hospital let me take that pump home, but when it was time to turn that pump in, I was lost. I returned the pump after 2 weeks, and I was left with a pump that a friend of my mom's gave her to give to me. Now, I was not familiar with pump brands. I did not know anything. Like literally, I knew nothing about pumping except for what the lactation consultant had told Steve that he had then relayed to me. And we all know that things get lost in translation. So I came home, and then I used this little bad boy. Now, this is a little Lancino pump that I used the freaking crap out of. I can't believe that this thing survived the amount of pumps that I did. This actually got me through the first 7 months of pumping, and at my peak time, I was pumping 70 ounces a day. That may not be a lot for you, but that was a lot for me. Now, where the story gets interesting is I religiously pumped, like always, overnight, every 3 hours, no matter what, up until 5 months when the girls started sleeping more through the night. I dropped that overnight pump. So my little teeny Lancino pump was being overworked. So one day we went out, we wanted to take the girls to Disney, and this pump is actually battery operated, which was convenient because then I could pump in the car and it was no big deal. So I bought batteries for it. I put the batteries in because I was out of batteries, so I bought new batteries, put the new batteries in, and I started pumping, and the bottom of my pump got incredibly hot, like too hot to touch. I went to take the back off of the pump, and then the back was melted to the actual batteries. So it was overheating, and we pulled over the car, and I was trying to like literally slam the batteries out of the pump. It didn't work. It was so melted together, and I figured, okay, well, that's the end of that pump. We were actually in the Target parking lot when we pulled over, so I ran inside. I grabbed the cheapest pump I could find. I was really just looking for anything that was affordable that I could at least empty myself with right then and there. So I bought a super cheap single pump. I can't even remember the brand of it, but oh my God, it was horrible. I'm 6 months postpartum. I have 3 6-month-old babies. Luckily, they were just starting to sleep through the night, but even still, the work was hard and I was exhausted. So now I took my 25-minute pumping session, and now I was having to pump one boob at a time. And that's actually what caused my supply to start dipping. So I used that pump for probably a month, and then finally a sweet friend from high school saw that I was having pump issues, and she was sent a Spectra through insurance, and she said that she would send it to me. So I paid for the shipping, she sent it to me, and thank God for her, because that pump saved me. I'm so thankful for my little Lancino pump for getting me through the first 6 months of exclusively pumping for 3 babies. It worked its freaking butt off, and when the batteries burnt to the back, I wasn't even mad at it because it was a little rock star. But I was so thankful for that Spectra. I think it was an S2, I'm not really sure. I probably should have showed you guys, but maybe I'll insert a picture here. As soon as I got the Spectra, I started pumping with it. The moment that I was able to put 2 pumping cups to my boobs and pump at the same time, that was like heaven on earth. So I used the Spectra from about 7 months up until the girls were 15 months. Now, during my whole pumping journey, I did not take any extra supplements. I drank a lot of water, and not even really on purpose or to help my supply. I drank a lot of water because I was always thirsty. As soon as I would put the pump to myself, I would get like so thirsty. It would feel like I have not had a sip of water in 7.5 years. My appetite was huge when I first had the girls and I first started pumping. I was eating all the time, like so much. I was eating anything and everything to fuel my body. And then that kind of tapered off also around the 7-month mark. One thing I did try, probably like around 5 months postpartum, I would say, was the Milkful bars. I hate talking bad about a small company, but they didn't work and they were not that good. They were really dry. But I guess basically just to sum it up as fast as possible. So from 7 months until I would say about 12 months, I was pumping 7 times a day. I would pump as soon as I woke up in the morning, and that pump was always my longest pump. It lasted about 30 to 35 minutes because I was just so full in the morning. So I always wanted to make sure I emptied myself. And then I pumped every 3 hours, and I would pretty much pump every single time the girls were eating. And we always ran a 3-hour schedule with them. And they were like clockwork. Once they started holding their own bottles, it was so much easier because I could lay them on the floor, pump, and by the time they were done, I was pretty much finished up pumping. Also, another random thing that I just find interesting is that throughout my entire pumping journey, I would say like for the first 2 or 3 months, I was able to supply enough for them so that we're getting 100% breast milk. I would literally pump it and pour my fresh milk into bottles, and it always worked out that I had enough. I very rarely ever put any milk in the refrigerator, and I never once was able to freeze 1 ounce of milk. I find that part so interesting because I know so many moms that pump that have like a whole freezer stash. That was my dream. I never had that. So I did supplement. That started around 3 months, where the girls would get about 1 bottle a day. When the girls turned 1, that for me was my goal. I kept telling myself, I'm just gonna do it for a year. If I can do it for a year, I'll be so proud of myself. And then I hit the year mark and I had extreme anxiety about quitting. I knew that that was my goal, and I felt like there was pressure for me to quit, even though there wasn't. But I think because I knew that that was my goal the whole time, I was feeling this pressure all of a sudden, like, don't quit. Why would you quit? You still have this great supply. The girls need this milk. They're still small for their age. And so I continued pumping, and at that point it didn't feel like such a hassle to pump because the girls were much more independent. All 3 of them were walking, they were playing together. So if I had to step away to pump for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever amount of minutes, I could, and it wasn't really a huge deal. And as ready as I was to let go of pumping so I could have my physical body back, I just couldn't get over the mental part of, if you have the supply, why stop? So I continued pumping until 15 months, and luckily around the 13-month mark, my supply started dropping a lot. I went from 70 ounces at my peak time, and then when my pump broke, it dipped down to about 50 ounces, and it stayed there for a long time. And then at the 13-month mark, it went from like 50 ounces to 30 ounces, and then by the last month, I was getting probably like 10 ounces a day. At that point, I was honestly thankful that my body was just kind of like doing it on its own, because it took that pressure off of me. And when I got to the point where I was pumping like half an ounce every time I pumped, for me, I thought, okay, that's great. Now I don't have to do like the work behind quitting. I could just stop pumping and never look back and not have to worry about getting engorged or being uncomfortable. I could just be done. So the day I put my pump away was amazing. I did my last pump, got like half an ounce, and that was it. And now I look back and I'm amazed that I was able to do that. I can't believe I had the discipline to do that. They're now drinking whole milk with no issues when we switched over, except for that they pooped a lot at first. If you plan on transitioning soon, just be forewarned that like the poop like intensifies a lot. I think that's about it. A lot of this video was me rambling. I'm really sorry if it doesn't make sense, but I knew that I wanted to just get my story out there and share it. Maybe something I said helps, Maybe none of it helps. Maybe you were just curious. If you guys made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you guys want to see anything else from me, just comment down below and let me know. I'd love to share more stories. I realized that I don't even think I've shared like the girl's birth story, like the details of it. I know we vlogged a little bit of it, but I don't think I shared like any of that. And now they're 16 months old, so you may not even be interested, but I would be happy to share if you guys are interested. Anyway, if there's anything else you're interested in, comment down below. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.